Hi everybody, I'm going to be doing a pen drawing demonstration. I've got this book here. I love frogs, so I'm going to attempt to draw this frog. It's actually better to draw from a black and white picture because you'll be using black on white when you draw. So I recommend you find a black and white image either off Google or on a book or you print one off. I don't have a printer at home, so I'm just going to go off this. What I do first is I do really softly with the ballpoint. I do my basic outline. The most important part of this frog is the eye. So I'm just going to do that first and then go out from there. And I'm always comparing so I can see where the eyebrow comes down, where does the skin start. It's right near the top, so I'm going to head out from there. And on the front it comes down a little bit lower, then bulges up into the other eyeball. The difficult thing with pen is that if you make a mistake, you cannot erase it. So you've got to always be checking what's here. This is the truth. So you've got to be comparing all the time at what the truth is saying and then putting that into place in your own life. So we come down with this shadow. You can see it bulges into a little nostril there, and then down into the lip. I can see already that my eye is a little bit small, so I'm just going to break that out a little bigger. I'll have to try and disguise that with some of the shading that I do, so that it looks still normal. Here's my lip coming through here. So what I've just done is looked at this space compared to the size of the eye. Try to copy that. It links into the front of the lip over here. Comes all the way back. There's this, I should find out what this part of the frog is actually. It's kind of the ear area. It probably is his ear, but it looks a little bit like a disc. So that's the mouth there, the gape of the mouth. And then this is the throat coming down. And I'll just focus on the face for today so that you can see what to do. This is going to frustrate me, so I'm going to build this eye up first because I've got a mistake in there that's distracting me. So I'm going to draw the actual pupil. Now in the pupil I can see some little white dots, the reflection points, so I'm actually going to go around them on my drawing, and that will remind me when I start putting in my black colouring to go right up to that line and then not to go inside it. So I am just using sort of scribble, cross of scribble and hatching. I'm going right around my little shapes there as I go through and fill up the rest of this pupil. I'm not pressing hard, I'm just layering my pen. Lots of layering on top of each other. If I press hard it will dent the paper, and if I dent the paper it doesn't look very good. So I'm just doing layers of shading, going right up to those little lines so that at the end of it you can see that those little reflection spots are left empty. Okay, so I can see that around the eye, still in the disc of the eye, it's really black, and then it kind of breaks into this goldy color on the inside, which obviously with a pen, when you're doing a black and white drawing, you can't do gold. So if I try and imagine how dark that gold is compared to white or black, what value is it? It's probably more of a lighter shade, a lighter grey, maybe towards a mid-tone. So I'll just start off like this, and then I'll probably come back to it and put a little bit more detail soon. But there's the start of our eye. Now I'm going to head across to this eye here. So frog's eyes are really awesome. They really bulge right out pretty crazy. I read a fact, I can just see a little bit of reflection there, so I'm going to just trace around it and avoid it as a colour in. I read a fact about frogs' eyes is that some frogs, they use their eyes when they're eating, they use their eyes to press down on their food when they swallow to help their food go down into their guts. So they actually use their eyes like a bit of a plunger in their throat, which is pretty weird. But that's how God's made creation. Lots of really epic, weird things going on. Makes it really exciting. Okay, I can see this little pattern happening around the eye of the frog. This is a motorbike frog that we have in Western Australia. Pretty cool creatures. Lots of green and then either a gold or bronze coloration that happens on them. This skin here is really bumpy and warty, which will be hard for me to do, and I've got a decision to make. Do I want to put all the time and energy into creating all of those little bumps and warts, or do I want to just do a general sort of shade and leave most of that out? To start off with, I'm just going to leave it. I might come back to it and put a little bit of detail in. I'll do a little bit here. So I'm just doing really small movements because they're small bumps. Just small sort of shading, but I'm not going to do too much of that because I don't want to be here for 10 hours. I'm kind of giving a good enough sort of idea of what's happening here. Okay, if I head over to this part, I usually work when I'm drawing from the top of the image down, because if I started at the bottom and then moved up, I end up pressing on the picture and I don't like doing that. So I generally start near the top and work my way across and down and then come back to things and do more work on them later on. So I'm doing a little bit of cross hatching here. I can see a shadow in this area and that's what I'm trying to pick up. So it's just that greeny space, but so here's the part that's in the light, and then I'm just going to layer a little bit more in the part that's got a shadow on it, just with some more cross hatching there. Up I come and over the eye there, it's a bit of a gold coloration there, which I will not be able to give justice, do due justice, wow, I can't get my words out, with the black and white pen, but we'll just see how we go. Okay, this disc, this ear disc that we've got here is quite a flat disc, so I'm not going to do lots of rounded shading. The eye is more bulbous, so I would do more rounded shading there, but this flat disc, because it's flat, I'm just going to use some sort of flat lines rather to show that the skin there is really taut, like on a drum. Cross hatch across it. The only thing that's going to be circular here is the actual outline, the shape around it, which I'm doing now. And if I blur my eyes at this picture, I can see that it's quite a, even though it's a gold, it's actually quite dark compared to other things that are going on this frog. So I'm just going to color it in a little bit darker. Shade it in a little darker there with my cross hatching. There's a piece of gold up here that I've forgotten about, that I've not really given enough space for, so I might just ignore that for now. This artist license, I should have made a really slight outline before to remind myself that it's there, but I forgot, so we'll just leave that for now. It's not an important part of this particular frog, so I know that I can get away with leaving it out. Okay, I might come down to this lip area now because there's quite a long stretch here are very definite shading, and that will just help me define what I'm doing as well. So I'm going to come along that lip line. It kind of dips down a little bit there. I'm going to come along that lip line and then get my shading up from there so that it's darker right at the break, at the crease, and then kind of lightens up as I come away. And then I can also see that this kind of bulges, this sort of mouth part kind of bulges out, so I'm going to use that kind of pen curve as I go on this space here. So first of all, I'm going to do this little bit of shading that's under the eye, just so I know where it is, and then I'm going to bulge out from there. So I'm using really soft curved hatching. I'm going outwards from under the eye, and then the bottom part coming up to meet it, still curving from the mouth. There's some light patches along here. If I draw them in strongly, you'll be able to see the outline, and I really don't want to see that outline. So I'm just going to almost really softly dot the edges of these shapes. They're just patterns on the frog. But if I just really softly dot those shapes so that I know where they are, then I can do my shading without going into those spaces, and they should stand out at the end. That's my intention anyway. I'm not sure if you can see on the video the part that I'm talking about, but I'm just going to shade this green a little bit stronger and leave that sort of light, really light whitey gold patterning empty for now, and we'll see what it looks like and then make decisions once we've seen it. Still curving my lines through this lip area, and I'm just being gentle and I'm just being patient. I'm not trying to do all my shading in one go, because then I might overshade it and get really dark, or do things in the wrong places. So just going really softly. I'm just going to outline around this shape here so I know where it is, and this light bit on the lips here, and then shade around that. Yeah. Okay, on the lip at the front there's also a bit of a white line coming down, so I'm just outlining that. Going to shade a little bit in the green area, and this time my shading motion is going in this direction, and that's because that's the direction that the nose, the curve of the nose, is coming down. I can see that in my drawing this distance I've got here is actually a little bit narrow. I should have done it a little bit deeper. That's okay, we all learn. Okay, there's a nostril in here that I've forgotten, so I'll put that in now. I first look at where it lines up with other things, so I can see that across there it's kind of in line with the bottom part of the eye. If I go directly up, it's in line with where the top of the eye goes. So I'm just going to do a bit of a thing there, so it goes in that space. And it's quite dark shading in there, especially on the right hand side, so I'm just going to do that now. And then I can see that it's outlined on that side, and then the shading's on the outside of it on that side, so shading comes down into the space. There's a bit of a gold band there that I want to capture, and the rest of it is got green, or there's a little bit of black there, which will be great. I'll bring that in shortly and make that more obvious, but I'll first just shade in the green underneath as I come around. So the reason why I'm showing you all this and just talking through the decisions I'm making is because you'll be facing all of these kinds of decisions when you do your own drawing, and if you can hear how I'm thinking and what processes I'm taking, you'll hopefully be able to feel more confident with the decisions you'll have to make in your own drawing. Here I come with that dark patch in here. I can already see that my patches down here don't line up properly with the nostril, but it's not a biggie. We'll just keep going. Every frog has got different patterning anyway. Okay, under the chin, if I blur my eyes, it takes away the detail for me, and I can see where the shaded space is under that chin a little easier. So I'm just going to do that first, but I'm keeping it super light because even though that's shaded, it's shaded on a white spot, so it's never going to be as dark as what we've got up here. So just keep that super light, and then there's some really big bumpy parts in there for the frog, so I'm going to use sort of rounded kind of shading just in here, just small, rounded, the size of each bump. I'm just trying to give at least an indication of what's happening under that chin for anyone who wants to view the artwork, so they understand, oh yeah, it's got a lumpy chin, and the shading then just supports that. Okay, coming around the front of my lip, just gonna make it a little bit more shading on the front compared to what's happening underneath, and come in a little bit on the shading that I'm missing in this spot here. I'm really not pressing hard at all on the paper. It's just the ink from the pen dragging over just the top of the surface, and that's why I really like using ballpoint. I can control how much ink is going on the paper a lot easier than if I was using an ink-based fine liner. So now I'm just going back over my image and just sort of seeing what I want to do a little bit more. I want to shade this part here a little bit more. I'm looking at it as a whole now, and if I blur my eyes at this picture and look at where the darker shaded spots are, I can see that down through here is a little darker, so I'm going to go a little stronger through there. I've not really left a lot of space for that. That's the part that I kind of missed out a little bit. So I'll just add in, my part's really thin compared to what it should be, but I'll just add the shading in there around the top of that eye bulge. There's a little bit going up here, and then at the back of the head I'm quite happy with that part. Might do a little bit more in the eyes now. I can see that that gold needs to darken up a little bit, and it's got a little bit of texture in there, so I'm using it's got a little bit veiny, so I'm doing some lines through there to get a little bit of a vein, capillary sort of look, and maybe make that reflection a little smaller by bringing the black in a little tighter, and might darken up a little bit of the green through here. So I'm just using some cross hatching through this space to darken up this green area. Still pressing really lightly. I think that's where we'll leave it for today.